Sigma have had a host of very exciting new lenses recently, and one of the most exciting is the new Sigma 135mm f1.4 art lens. Now, one of the reasons this is so exciting is this is actually one of the first 135mm f1.4 aperture autofocus lenses. Actually, that combination of focal length and aperture is pretty rare. While there have been a couple of manual focus options in the past, this is the first autofocus one. And I didn't realize that when I first got this lens. But actually, this is such an exciting option for things like portraiture, for some really lovely separation between subject and background. You can get some extremely dreamy looking portraits with a lens like this, as well as all kinds of other stuff as well. Things like landscape, maybe even some sport as well. This has actually very fast autofocus in here, so you can do all kinds of different things with a very fast aperture to allow you to shoot in all kinds of different lighting. So this is potentially a great wedding option as well. I've had the opportunity to try this out for a nice period of time, so I really got to grips with it. I've got to say, it's been such a fun lens to shoot with because the combination of 135 and f1.4 just allows for some really beautiful optics. That shallow depth of field look is just exceptional with this lens. The lens compression with that very nice wide open aperture just allows for just beautiful, dreamy looking bokeh, like I mentioned before. Now, the lens itself is not massive, but it's still 1.4 kilograms, so it's weighty, but I think it was always going to be, right? With an aperture like that, a focal length like this, it was always going to have some weight to it, but I don't think it's actually that long, which is quite impressive. You do have a very large front glass element, so it's a 105mm filter thread, but it feels great in the hands. It's a very premium feel to it, a mix of metal and plastic. It is weather sealed, which means that it is absolutely usable in all kinds of different conditions. And in terms of controls, it's actually pretty straightforward. You've got an aperture ring on the lens, which I think is great with a lens like this. I always really appreciate that. You've got the click and declick as well. You've got the AF/MF switch, and you've got customizable buttons on the side, which is always super useful for different ways to shoot. And then you've got this tripod mount on the lens, which I actually think is really handy. I wasn't so sure about it at first, but the more I was using the lens, it doesn't really get in the way. The lens feels great handheld either way, so it's not really a problem. But actually, it's quite a nice thing to have on there because it's a little bit of a heavier lens. This does make sense if you are going to put it on a tripod to probably mount it onto the lens like this. Otherwise, I had no issues with this lens handheld all day, out and about. Absolutely felt very comfortable shooting that way. I didn't feel like I needed to put it back on my bag. Part of that is probably the balancing as well, because it's not too long. It does feel very comfortable actually on the front of something like the Sony a7 IV, the a7R5. It's great in that kind of setup. Now, optically, this is an art lens, right? Which to me signals a certain level of quality, and that's absolutely the case here. Image quality is absolutely outstanding. It's super sharp. The images are beautiful. You've got a very tiny bit of softness in the corners when you're shooting wide open, but to be honest with you, that's somewhat to be expected. Anyway, this is absolutely outstanding performance, and the character of the images is absolutely beautiful. Like I mentioned before, that focal length and aperture allows for such amazing separation between subject and background. So if you want to get the kind of portrait that really isolates your subject, you're absolutely going to be able to do that here. The bokeh is super smooth. The fall off looks fantastic. It's just a very, very flattering and beautiful lens to use for that kind of thing. We have got a little bit of focus breathing here, which means for video, that's something to just be aware of. I actually don't mind it personally. I think it kind of adds to the character a little bit, but it's something to just be aware of when you are shooting with this. And the other thing to be aware of is the minimum focus distance is 110 centimeters, which is perhaps not as close as you might like. I actually don't think it's a massive problem. 135mm is the kind of lens you're going to want to be a little further away from your subject anyway, but it means you're not going to be getting in super close with this lens. Now, on the front of something like the a7 IV or the a7R5, the autofocus is super fast. It's very, very reliable. Like I said earlier, you could actually use this for a little bit of sport stuff if you wanted to, maybe even some, closer up wildlife kind of stuff. Certainly in terms of autofocus, it's absolutely able to keep up with that kind of thing. But the truth is, this is the kind of lens that as a tool, if you're a wedding photographer or an event photographer, this is going to help set you apart a little bit. It is going to give you such beautiful images. It is such a wonderful and versatile lens that is able to capture all kinds of different things. But really, this is going to deliver exceptional results. It is just such a great lens to add to your kit bag, especially if you like a little bit of a tighter shot. I love that kind of thing. I think this is a great option for portraits and for all kinds of other beautiful imagery. You can check out the full specs, everything you want to know about this lens, by heading over to parkcameras.com, and there's loads of stuff to check out over there. I'll pop a link in the description to make it a little bit easier to go and check that out for yourself. Otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe as well, because there's new content all the time. I'll of course see you in the next video, but until then, as always, thanks for watching.